Happening now, some breaking news on the leader of North Korea, dictator Kim Jong-il, who rarely travels abroad, reportedly visiting China today, his third trip there in a year. His purpose remains unclear, but North Korea faces growing international pressure to end its nuclear weapons program, and of course, economics also comes into play here. In the meantime, several reports, China has agreed to immediately provide Pakistan with 50 additional JF-17 fighter jets, raising new alarms over Pakistan's growing military ties with China. At a time, of course, we're talking about our aid to that country. Former Indiana Senator Evan Bayh is a Fox News contributor, and he's joining us now. Nice to see you, Senator. We really appreciate you joining us today.
Good to be with you, Jenna.
Let's talk a little bit about this relationship between China and Pakistan. What do you make of it?
Well, in the long run, Jenna, it is likely that China and Pakistan will grow closer. They have strategic interests in common. The Pakistanis are virtually paranoid about the Indians. The Chinese also see the Indians as a long-term strategic competitor, and so that will bring those two countries closer together. Our own relationship, as you know, with Pakistan right now is very complicated. We needed to do more in the war on terror. The finding of Osama bin Laden within Pakistan raised real questions about their commitment to that, and yet at the same time we're dependent on them to get supplies into Afghanistan. So long term, this is to be expected. We'll probably grow closer to India as we extricate ourselves from Afghanistan.
You know, there's so much talk, of course, I'm sure you've heard, Senator, of withdrawing our aid, whether it's through money or military, to Pakistan, because of questions about our true relationship with them as a government. When you see the other relationships that are forming, what would you suggest to current members of Congress about our path as far as aid to Pakistan?
Well, we're giving them $3 billion a year, and so I think we need to condition that aid not on nice words from Pakistan, but on proven deeds, insisting that they step up and increase their activity in the war against terror and stop destabilizing Afghanistan and at least indirectly tolerating groups that are killing Americans in Afghanistan. So I think we absolutely need to use this as a moment to insist that the Pakistanis get more serious about fighting the war on terror. Longer term, as I suggested, it is likely that we will try and maintain good relations with both Pakistan and India, but we'll gravitate toward being a little closer to India, just as the Chinese will be a little closer to Pakistan.
You know, it's interesting to hear you talk about aid and how it should be put forward. Of course, we just heard from the president yesterday about aid that he's going to be given, or the Congress is going to be giving to Egypt and a few of the countries in the Middle East. We've been so focused on the Middle East, and certainly a lot going on there. But hearing this news about China, do you think we're missing something as far as our national conversation about where our attention really needs to be as far as our national security?
Well, we've got short-term and long-term interests. Short-term, as you know, we're trying to stabilize Afghanistan so we can get out. We don't want them to be used as a platform again for another 9/11. But longer term, you know, Egypt is the center of the Arab world. They've got 90 million people. They're the cultural hub. And there are deep problems in Egypt because they've got a lot of young people and an economy that has trouble employing those young people. So we need to do what we can to stabilize Egypt. But I would encourage us to remain as much as possible doing it quietly in the background, because there is likely over the course of the next year to be a period of first euphoria, but then disappointment set in. And we don't want that disappointment directed at the United States. We want to be in a position where we are still a credible ally, able to help them in whatever the new Egypt will become, which, you know, God willing, will evolve more in a direction like Turkey, rather than going back to Nasserism and anti-Israeli sentiment, or, in the worst case scenario, the Muslim Brotherhood and radical Islam gaining a real foothold in Egypt. We don't want that.
Just real quick here, I only have about 20 seconds, but where do you see the greatest threat to our national security as you take a look at the countries all over the world?
Well, the greatest threat would be the proliferation of nuclear weapons. That leads you then to North Korea, possibly Pakistan, if they were to lose control of their arsenal, or to allow someone like A.Q. Khan to start selling technology once again. That's the greatest threat to America. The greatest immediate terrorist threat is emanating from Yemen.
Interesting. Senator, great to have you today. We appreciate you joining us. Look forward to